Usually start at 6:30, but because it's.
All right. Okay, turn the mics on, please.
I have to?
Well, yeah, I suppose. You said turn them.
If I turn my mic on.
Terry didn't even hear me making.
All right. Terry, we're going to get started. I know you're remote.
Okay, can you hear me?
We do.
Yes.
Great.
All right, so we're going to go ahead and start the Burlington High School Building Committee Joint School Committee meeting of September 9th, 2025. The public can also access this meeting via WebEx technology. The Burlington High School Building Committee will hear public comments in person and virtually. Meetings are also broadcast live on Burlington Cable Access TV. Audio recordings are being made. This meeting of the Burlington High School Building Committee will be held in person at the location provided in this notice. Members of the public are welcome to attend this in-person meeting. Please note that while an option for remote attendance and/or participation is being provided as a courtesy to the public, the hearing will not be suspended or terminated if technological problems interrupt the virtual broadcast unless otherwise required by law. Members of the public with particular interest in any specific item on this agenda should please make plans for in-person versus virtual attendance accordingly. If you are participating remotely, please identify yourself by typing your name on the screen in advance and verbally once you're identified to speak. We request that you please turn on your camera. Comments and statements are limited to 3 minutes. Let's go ahead and do the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
To the republic which stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, is anybody here for public comment? Public comment?
Is it other than what the subject is?
Well, this is your opportunity to speak about anything that's not on the agenda. Yep. If you could identify who you are, please, and
Hello, my name is Jim McNiff.
I know you are.
Yeah, I live at 59 Villagewood Drive in Burlington. Actually, as I sit here, I almost feel I'm in like a cartoon in a way, because the only time I've seen you people is like when I watch my videos.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm in another world in a way, yeah. But I spoke at the last meeting you had. My concern was about looking at the budget, the final or the not to exceed number, and digging a little bit into that number. But after that meeting, I sat down for myself and just figured out why was I asking these questions. And I want to bring up one thing that, you know, it was in the news recently. It's in the Buzz Fall Edition. I don't know if you've seen it. I get the Buzz, and it has in it the two people that were interviewed saying, are you for the high school or not for the high school? And when I read it, I read it saying that where's the common ground? Because both of them seem to be kind of right in their own opinion, what they were stating. And it had to do with, one person was saying that we should build a high school based on looking at the high school. The other person was looking at, as a taxpayer, or as much broader view, and saying we have all these projects going live in town, you know, the police station and what have you, and that adds up to, you know, $500 million, and it's going to cost this much. I mean, it's reality. Both of them are, in my mind, real. You know, what goes on there. So I was thinking, where, especially where the school committee is, where are, I know you're going to do more outreach to get people involved to believe this is the thing they should do. And as I looked at these two answers from the two individuals, I would say those that have the little bit more focus view already bought into to doing the high school. I think it's the other group. And I think the other group, I'm one of the other group in the sense I see it as a taxpayer. I don't have any children in the school system. And as I looked at it as a taxpayer, and similar to the person who wrote it in the View and the Buzz, I said, how can I help look at the numbers in a way that, or not only reducing expenses, looking for more revenue, that would make your argument, or not your argument, but your petition to have this passed more digestible, because it is an extreme number. And if anybody reads that Burlington Buzz, they're going to, you know, be a little bit shocked maybe by the number. It's been raised before. So my point was that when I was here spoke the last meeting, I dealt with the not to exceed, because I was looking at the budget. So I had questions about when based on the detail I saw, there wasn't enough detail. There was generalities in the numbers. It was, they had the soft costs, which was $67 million, didn't have any detail to it, so I didn't know what it was and what it comprised. And you also had other lines that were called contingencies, which are used regularly in the contracting business to, 5% for this. Am I taking too much? Oh, okay, that's why I was asking if I was curtailed. Okay, so my point was that there are opportunities to either change your not to exceed, possibly, that makes it more digestible, which I think you can. For example, I just thought, like even saying that you were going to use free cash to offset some of that debt back to how you're going to bond this. I'm a proponent that we bond this 30 years, not 25, because it does bring $3 million savings, even though it sends interest way 30 years later. But you have a building, it's 50 years, it's supposed to last 50 years. So Yeah,
Sorry, I don't
that's
want to
it.
cut you off. But,
that was-
you know, we'll be talking about numbers
That-
later, and you can certainly come up and once we talk about those, you can
That's
raise
fine.
your hand again. I just want to be fair.
I appreciate it. No,
Yes,
no
yes.
problem.
Thank you, Jim.
Okay.
Is there anyone else online? Anyone online?
No hands raised.
Okay. So let's go ahead and move on. So we need,
Now you got Martha.
pardon me?
Martha joined.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. So let's go ahead and approve the meeting minutes from August 14th. Can we have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Okay. Any discussion? Okay, I'm going to go ahead and take a vote. Chris, Monaco,
Yes.
Jeremy,
Yes.
Megan,
Yes.
Melissa,
Yes.
Eric,
Yes.
Chris Campbell,
Yes.
Nicole,
Abstain.
okay, Bob,
Yes.
Wendy, Zerwinski. So yay, nay, or abstain? Abstain? I'm going to say.
Yes.
There's a terrible.
I heard a yes.
Is a yes?
I heard 4 or 5 abstains.
I think she said yes, that she abstains.
Oh.
Yes, and she abstains, okay. Because I didn't think she was here. Doug?
Yes.
Neil?
Yes.
Laura? Laura?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Gail? Gail?
Abstain?
Abstain.
Abstain?
I heard that.
Okay. And Martha?
Yes.
Yes. And Mark? All right, so that's 1, 2, oh, and the chair is a yes, so it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 yeses, 0 noes, and 1, 2 abstentions. Okay? And then I'm going to pass this next section over to Melissa. We're going to be approving the budget and get an update on the, approve invoices and then get an update on the budget.
Through the chair, can I just ask a
So I'm
question,
going to
please?
pass it over to Melissa for the invoices.
I'm chair
Yeah, I
now.
just have a question.
What?
I'm hearing some feedback. Can we ask if people mute unless you're talking? I don't know where the feedback's coming from yet, sorry. Sorry.
To approve Doran Whittier invoice 22, August 2025, in the amount of $18,000.
I'll second that.
Questions? Mr. Brooks? Actually, we're all here. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Chair votes aye. Unanimous.
And I'll make a motion to approve the TAPE invoice number 250807, August 25th, in the amount of $75,000.
Second. It's the amendment, that's August 2025. You said 25th.
Did I say that?
Yeah.
August 2025. I'll say it again. Motion to approve TAPE invoice number 250807, August 25th, in
Nope.
the amount of $75,000.
August 2025.
Oh, August 2025.
I got it. I
had
think,
one of those
I think
days.
Marion's got it.
Okay.
Still second.
Still seconded. All right. Questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion passes.
Okay. Goodness gracious. How about the budget update, please?
Yeah, so that's probably me. Can you all hear me?
Yep, yes.
So I apologize for not being there in person. My wife believes that we're on vacation, but she's very much mistaken. Anyway, we are on budget. You can see from those numbers, TAPE is wrapping up their work. We will as well. But this will take us through town meeting and the debt exclusion. And so we're in good shape, I think, in terms of funds allocated and funds going out the door. So I'm not sure if there's questions there. You know, we're in good shape.
Any questions from anyone? Okay.
Hearing none, I'm going to move on to why we're probably here tonight. So at our last meeting, we presented the estimate that we had worked on with PM&C and Consigli. That was published, I think, 2 days before the meeting. We put that out to this group. The number at the time was $337.5 million. I believe, well, I don't believe, what we agreed to do was to submit something to the town with a not to exceed number of $340 million. Since that time, both TAPE, Consigli, and ourselves have sat down and gone through that estimate. And in the materials that we sent you late last week, that included both the Consigli estimate and the 3011, which is a document the MSBA uses that details just about every single cost, including soft costs. So that will all be published on our website tomorrow. And as you can see from this slide, we show what was at PSR and what was at schematic design. That number is $334,769,880. That is effectively the number that the project team, the design team, the construction team is standing behind. That's the number that you should include with town meeting. And I'm going to go into some other numbers related to contingency on the next slide. But, you know, to me, this is good news. You know, we had a not to exceed number. We've been pretty consistent. I had a conversation with Dr. Conti today. He said, you know, a long time ago, you said the number was going to begin with a 3. And, you know, I think through PDP, PSR, SD, we've been fairly consistent as to what we believe the number to be. And we have some additional slides in here to show you where Burlington High School falls in relation to other schools in the Commonwealth, which I think will be useful. But this is the number that the project team is recommending that you go back to town meeting with in terms of what they will vote upon.
Any questions or discussion on that?
Can I move to the next slide?
Sure.
Right. So in terms of that number, there are a lot of contingencies in there. And I'm actually going to ask Christy from Consigli just to touch on the top 2 or 3 in terms of what those mean from a construction standpoint, because I think it's important that people understand that. We've explained it before, but I think it's worth going through it again. So Christy, do you want to just take the mic?
Sure. I'll start with the design estimate contingency. And this we're carrying right now at 11%, which is commensurate in relation to the level of design drawings that we have today. And typically at the schematic design, we see anywhere between 10 and 12%. So 11% is very much in line with what the documents reflect. And this contingency is meant to cover anything that's not yet identified or fully developed in the schematic design sets of documents, but it's reasonably anticipated based on our experience building K through 12 schools. Now, as the design advances to design development and ultimately the construction document phase, you're going to see that 11% decrease between now and when we go to a final GMP, it'll actually be 0. But the idea is that as the scope gets more defined, we put more detail into our cost estimate, and therefore the 11% ultimately moves above the line into the cost of work. So it's 11% now, and over the course of pre-construction, you'll see that percent come down. The next item that we've carried is escalation. And this is our prediction of where the market is going to go. And we have about a year and a half left of pre-construction until we go to buyout. And we typically carry that escalation to the buyout period. However, since we're looking at a 40-month construction project, we've included some additional escalation to carry us to about the midpoint of construction. And again, this is very much in line with MSBA type standards. And then construction contingency, we're carrying 4%. This is another contingency that we carry and Consigli manages on our side of the ledger within the construction budget. And it's meant to cover any conflicts, ambiguities, scope overlaps, or scope that was not fully bought out within our subcontracts. It's not meant to cover owner changes or unforeseen conditions, but given that this is a renovation and there are some, conditions that have yet to be uncovered, 4% is pretty typical for a renovation addition project. We've also carried a tariff allowance of 1.5%, and this was a decision that we made as a team to reflect what's going on in the market. And this is something that we're going to continue to monitor between now and our next estimate, where we're going to see how the tariffs pan out in the next few months. But we think this is a responsible number to carry at this point, given some of the fluctuations in the market.
Thanks, Christy. In terms of the other owners' contingencies that are in here, the CM contingency at 5% is a fairly standard number that you put in at SD. You'll see that in pretty much all MSBA projects, so that's typically carried. Other soft cost contingency, typically this is at 5%. We've included this at 10%, and there's reasons why I want to carry this at this point, and it relates to kind of what Christy just said in terms of this is a complicated renovation. We also have some scope that we'll talk about in terms of the Center for Education that I want to carry some dollars for so that we get this all in number, because Christy mentioned the GMP. The number of the 334 is what this team is signed up for, and our intention is to come in as far under that as possible. What you can see here is, 19% of this is contingency. I believe a good portion of it is going to get spent, but our job is to try and save every dollar we can to bring that number under. And I know Doug and I have spoken, and I think he's going to talk a little later. To the extent we don't spend contingency, the total project cost for the Burlington High School project will go down, and that money will not be borrowed or bonded. And so just want to make that very clear to folks, and also to demonstrate that this is not atypical. So, the project down the street in Lexington, their number right now at SD for total project cost is just under $660 million. They're carrying $125 million worth of contingency. That's probably the project that is in lockstep with this one in terms of where we are in design and pricing. So I'll pause there and take any questions if there are any. One of the things that, certainly Catherine and I have been discussing is trying to compare high schools and their cost, and this statement here is like comparing an apple, orange, and a peach. They're all fruits, but they're not necessarily the same, because projects have different elements, whether or not they're an ad, reno, and new. Do they have a field house, a pool, a hockey rink? They gap from one another. But in an attempt to kind of normalize things, I asked one for Christy to kind of show what Consigli has done in terms of projects. So I'm gonna again share the mic with Christy and just allow her to kind of explain where we fall in relation to other schools.
Sure. So the cost column that you see on the left-hand side, that first graph, that's our cost estimate at the schematic design stage. And the rest of the bars that you see are comps or comparable projects that Consigli has built over the last 9 to 10 years. And when we look at comps, we look at a cost per square foot basis. That's the best way to start to, as Terry said, look apples to apples. That being said, no project is exactly alike. And I want to highlight just a couple schools right now to just start to give you the flavor of how they're so different. Waltham High School, for example, had a significant amount of rock blasting, over 900,000 cubic yards. It also had a parking garage with a field house built on top, none of which Burlington High School has. Stoneham, on another hand, had a significant amount of site improvements, 5 athletic fields, a new field house and stadium, as well as geothermal wells. So when you start to look at some projects that you might recognize, you see how they can be very different. Additionally, we've talked about Arlington as being a very similar project, but the similarity really is in how it was phased. It was a phased, occupied project, but Arlington High School didn't maintain any of the existing high school structure. Everything was built new, but in a series of phases. It had a new cafeteria, new auditorium, new gymnasium, as well as new fields. And the reason that you see Burlington's cost per square foot at a much lower rate is because you're economizing on all of the great program spaces and the large volume program spaces that are being maintained. So a lot to digest there. When we look at these comps, we look at a bunch of different areas. We look at structure, we look at the exterior, the interior, how the systems are, and that's what shows how the ranges are being created. But I just wanted to highlight why Burlington costs are where they are. It's also important to note that all of these other schools have been escalated to Burlington's timing of when we're going to go to market. As I said, we're carrying that escalation factor. All of these other schools have been brought and actualized into today's dollars and then further to align with Burlington.
Thanks, Christy. So that was obviously construction costs. We've talked about the difference between construction cost and total project cost. The story kind of continues in terms of where Burlington falls in terms of the dollar per square foot. We do have 360,000 square feet, and on a dollar per square foot basis, I think at SD we were at 917. That has increased to 925, but it still kind of demonstrates what Christy's talking about in terms of taking advantage of the space that's there that we're renovating and how that translates into what I view is value for Burlington in terms of where we fall in with respect to dollars per square foot.
Any questions, anyone? Okay.
So what I would like to do, you guys have already done this, but I'm under kind of a tight schedule with the town, and I would like so what John Denizio has told me, so the warrant that we submitted a month ago has gone to the printer. It's going to say $340 million. What I would like this committee to do is to amend that within the construct of our meeting to reflect the 334, 769, 880 number that is on a few slides ago. We're going to provide that to John actually tonight, as well as some additional documents that were shared with you, including a letter that comes from the school building committee, as well as kind of a 2 or 3 page flyer that hopefully you have all looked at that will go to town meeting members as well. In addition to that, they will be given links to the 3011 that I mentioned previously, as well as the consigli estimate, so that everyone has the opportunity to view that. But what I'd like to do is to ratify this article that's in front of you, just as we did last time, to reflect the 334 number.
Yes. You want? Oh. Again, I was going to talk. Yeah. So who would like to, clearly I shouldn't be the one reading out loud because I can't read today. So if someone.
This is a school committee vote, correct?
Yes.
Yes. So I'm going to pass it to you.
Read as presented. It's the same. We're just changing the number.
So someone needs to make an
Yeah.
amendment to the amount that we had already voted on. So from 340 to the 334, 769, 880.
Is this a motion?
Yeah.
What's the article number?
It actually is article number 3.
And I got the amount. So I'll make a motion to see if the town will vote to borrow the sum of $334,769,880 for the purpose of paying costs of project management, design services, constructing, equipping, and furnishing a new and renovated Burlington High School, including the payment of all costs incidental or related thereto, that to meet this appropriation, the treasurer, with the approval of the select board, is authorized to borrow said amount under and pursuant to MGL Chapter 44, Section 7, provided, however, that any borrowing approved hereunder shall be contingent upon approval of a Proposition 2.5 debt exclusion referendum under Mass General Law, Chapter 59, Section 21C, parentheses K and parentheses, or take any action related thereto.
Second.
Any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Opposed? Chair votes aye, 5-0.
Hey,
Thank you for doing
Terry?
that. That's really great.
So hold on, Terry.
One thing
Terry, time out.
Just, Madam Chair, may I ask Terry a question?
Sure.
Terry, this is Eric. How are you?
I'm good.
I know that was the important vote, but would it be too much to ask symbolically if we could ask the building committee to support the school committee vote, just because people have spent a lot of time, and I just think that would be something that would be, again, not official, but it would sort of put us on the record as well?
I think that's a great idea.
I'm not, the motion, I don't think you have to reread the motion, but could the motion be something like, the high school building committee, what would I say, supports the, what?
Article number 3.
The not to exceed
Article number
number as approved by the Burlington School Committee.
Second.
I'm going to go ahead and take the vote, all right? Chris Monaco?
Yes.
Jeremy? Megan?
Yes.
Melissa?
We have a second for the motion, I didn't hear?
Yes. It was seconded.
Okay, thank you.
Eric?
Yes.
Chris Campbell? Yes. Nicole?
Yes.
Bob?
Yes.
Wendy?
Yes.
Doug?
Yes.
Neil?
Yes.
Laura?
Yes.
Gail? Gail? You can put, yes, okay. I knew she was going to say yes, but I was going to say put her hand up. Martha?
For me. Aye.
Mark?
Yes.
Okay, so it's one. Mimi? Oh, Mimi joined. Sorry, I didn't know you had joined Mimi. Mimi?
Yes.
Anybody else join that I didn't see? Okay. All right, 1, 2, 3. I don't see any no's of the people here, so it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 0, 0. All right, thank you, everyone.
Point of clarification. So this number and article print officially, or will we still have to be amended on town meeting floor?
I believe.
I didn't hear that comment,
Terry.
sorry.
He asked the question about, will it need to be amended on town meeting floor as well? Yes.
Yeah, I think that's typically what happens in Burlington. I mean, clearly what's going to be on our site beginning tomorrow and what anyone should be sharing is the 334 number. My understanding, and we can certainly reach out to the moderator, John Denisio is well aware that the number is changing. And so my fallback is to say, yes, it will be at the floor of town meeting. But if there's another mechanism that we can utilize, I'm all for it. Clearly what will be in the package of information that I send to the town tonight after this meeting will reference the 334 number.
Thank you. Do you have any comments, Doug, or you're good? Okay. All right, we can move on to the next subject, FAQ topics.
Yep. So one of the things that I know we've gotten questions on, and I just have a couple of these. I am cognizant of time, but we do have this existing space above the Center for Education that I think folks have inquired about. I'm not going to read this. I'm actually going to have Chris Blesson sort of explain what we're doing up there and how we intend to fit that out. So, Chris, do you want to just explain what's happening?
Yeah, thanks, Terry. So The 18,000 square feet that's on the second floor of the Center for Education is existing space right now. I don't remember what classrooms are up there, but it's a series of classrooms. I think art and things are on the end above the superintendent's office and central district office right now. So the result here is that you've got an existing space to remain, and you're not going to tear it down because it's second floor above spaces that you want to keep on the first floor. And so the project goal all along has been, we're going to replace the windows, do all the energy stuff we need to do, put in the new systems up to a point where they can be expanded. So they're going to be installed with capacity for future expansion, and then do the abatement if there's any up there, and sort of leave it as a bit of a not complete skeleton or a vanilla box, as you will, like in the retail world. But it'll have, a layer of flooring material on it, and have lights and some sprinklers and all the things that it needs to accommodate the future layout and, whatever that becomes, but it'll be rather open. There is just a little bit of programming up there as part of the design, which is, it'll be a couple classrooms for one of the evening programs. And so there's already things up there currently in the plan, but then there'll be these two spaces totaling 18,000 square feet on either side of that. And really it's a space for some expansion and identified of programs that we already kind of know about, but we don't have final clarity on what they need to be or where they should go in terms of that floor plate. So I think we're ready to tackle that. And I think Terry's point is that we wanted to keep some money in contingency to cover whatever the space is going to be finally, but the base costs include, I would say it gets you probably about 50% of the way to an occupied space. And then we need to figure out what the final bit is over the next year plus in order to get that final piece in there. And so I know there's some initiatives with the central office and the other things that are going to really use that space well, but it is really, I keep thinking of it as bonus space in a way, that just by the nature of doing this project, you end up with this square footage up on the second floor that is now usable and expandable for the district. So that's the gist of what we wrote here in this paragraph with a bunch more words.
Thank you, Chris. Anybody have any questions or comments?
Madam Chair, just not to disagree with Chris, but I don't see this as bonus space at all. I see the programming that we have already that's in inadequate space, that we need space like that for us to continue. And again, I'll give an example. We are, the middle part of the building's coming down, so the libraries, right, upper and lower library are coming down. So we have a very popular program and club, Mark, the robotics club, that has a space that they use that needs to be opened, where they have 3D printers, they have saws, they need space to run the robot. The lower library is sort of space that is not going to be included in the new construction part of the building. So I would say the robotic space is barely adequate, maybe inadequate currently, given the popularity of the team. So again, I would see, again, it's Mark's building, but I would see sort of space like that be made available to the robotics team. Computer science classrooms, I think, are a little bit inadequate. We need pathway space. So again, I'm seeing that space utilized right away for existing programming, not future programming, but existing programming, where we see a lot of demand, and I think demand's only going to increase. So again, Chris, not to be difficult or disagree, but I think describing it as bonus space will sort of give the message like we don't need it, or it's extra, or and I just don't see it that way.
Yeah, no, and that's fair, Eric, and similar to what we did at the start of this process, or once Chris and his team came on board, is to do an educational plan, and we need to do that for this space, working with the district to basically kit it out in the fashion that supports programming. And we will do that over the course and through design development. And, you know, that's why we're carrying that additional contingency that I mentioned before, because I think, to Eric's point, programming needs that space, and we just need to design it correctly. And so that's what we intend to do.
Ms. Monaco has a question or a comment?
Yeah, just a comment. I could be wrong. It's totally up to the superintendent and others, but I sort of envision a portion of that space being used for transition when we have we have the preschool in the plan to be in the current cafeteria. And sometimes we have students that aren't quite ready to go on to kindergarten. And I see that as an area very close to the preschool where we could have some transitional classes. Like I said, it's not up to me, but it's a thought that I've been carrying through this whole process, that that's a perfect place for it.
Thank you.
Catherine? Thank you, through the chair. I just want to follow up on Chris's comment that, you know, we have in the past had programs like that in our early childhood center, but space is always an issue in public schools. I haven't worked in one for very long, but I know that people are always looking for space and always looking to expand programming, or even just, you know, small meeting space, small group space. So I think having this space is a wonderful opportunity for us to look at the needs in our community and within our schools, K through 12, to make sure that we have the space that we need in pre-K.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Yeah, just I want to, because the language is a little ambiguous on the slide, confirm we are going to wind up with finished space. We have not codified what that is, and it fits under the ceiling of the budget, correct?
That is exactly right, Jeremy, and that will be reflected in the meeting minutes, and that is included in the $334.8 million.
Thank you.
Yep.
Anyone else? You see
have my hand
any
up.
hands up online? Martha?
Yeah. I want to support all those comments about this space is going to be full. It's going to be used. A lot of it could be, most of it could be high school, some of it could be pre-K, but there's a need for all of that space. And I think it's important for people to understand this is not like extra. So I just wanted to support all of the comments that have been made. I also know that there was a comment on, I don't know what to call it, social media online, that maybe the MSBA would give us accelerated repair program money. But I know that in the past, we've asked the MSBA for accelerated repair money, and we were not eligible for that program. So it sounds nice, but it's not money that we're eligible for the Center for Education, to my understanding.
Thank you, Martha. Anyone else? Okay, let's go to the next subject, the tax impact, and I believe we're going to have Doug talk about that.
I believe that's true. So there's a chart here that will be helpful. It shows the estimated tax impact for various property values. The number that we've thrown around for quite some time has been about $1,200 per year for the average property value in Burlington of $780,000. But if folks want a better idea, if they want to look and see what impact it will have on their personal taxes, there's a couple of ways this chart is helpful. You can also, for the $780,000 value, it's $3.34 for every $1 million that we bond. There are a couple of other formulas that you can play around with. It's basically $152 per $100,000 of value of your home. So if you look on your tax statement and look at what your assessed value is, we're not talking about the value that you know your neighbor's house just sold for. It's what your assessed value is from the assessor's office, and so $152 per $100,000 value is a pretty accurate number. If you want to be more detailed, it's actually, and you can do this for anything else that we borrow, it's 45.5 cents per 100,000 value per $1 million borrowed. All of those come up to about the same number for the average household. I believe it's more like $1,187, but we'll say $1,200 for good round numbers. It's a big number. I think the next slide is just as important to look at, and that is the timing of how this will impact the taxpayer. So it's easy to make it feel like this thing's going to hit all next year or the year after. But if you look at the way the money is spent in this chart or this table, you don't see significant impact until fiscal year 2028, which for those who are less nerdy about our municipal government, we name our fiscal years by, we have a July 1st to June 30th, June 31st fiscal year, and so we name it by the second half of that year. So currently in the 25-26 fiscal year, we're in fiscal year 2026. So you can see in 2026, the average taxpayer would go up $23 for the year. In 27, it's $79. In 2028, it jumps up to $515, and so on. So you don't see the full, you get most of the full by 2030. It'll inch up a little bit after by 2032 when the project is finished. And then the other important point to keep in mind is that this is if we borrow the entire amount. So the way the construction bonding will go is that first we'll do bands, which are bond anticipation notes, and they're short-term, kind of, you can think of it like a construction loan for building a house. And then once the project is complete, then we'll we'll kind of bundle those bands and bond them. Some of those may get paid off with free cash. Some of those may get bonded a little differently just to get the best rate and based on what our bond counsel tells us is going to work best for us. But again, that's the amount that we borrow. This is a not to exceed number that we just voted, the 334.8, I believe, million, and I would anticipate that we see a little savings from that as we go through. I think all of the contingencies that were built in are quite conservative, and so I would say that the 334 is a worst case scenario as far as every contingency has to be fully spent. So hopefully that number will be a little bit smaller. But if you play around with the numbers, little bits of change don't make a big difference in any taxpayer's bill. So I don't know if there are any questions about that.
Anybody in the room? Chris has a comment, and then we'll look at people online. Oops. Sorry, Chris, you can go ahead and make your comment or ask your question, and then we'll go to people online if anyone has any comments.
I just wanted to point out that based on what Doug just explained to us, the full impact of this doesn't hit for at least 5 years.
And it's an incremental increase.
Yeah, it's a little bit and then a little more.
It's still the same number in the end, but it's a little less painful when it grows
Right,
slowly over multiple years.
I would also like to point out, based on the comments you made, that it sounds like we have a very smart, conservative town when it comes to finances. We have a great Ways and Means Committee and administration, and I think that they're always, and the select board, they're always looking out for the residents. So my gut tells me that whenever they can pay for part of this with free cash or get a better rate, that they will. And that actually these numbers we're looking at worst case scenario in these numbers, and that it will probably be a little better. Thanks.
Thank you, Chris. Any questions or comments from anyone online? Okay. I guess we can move on then. Project schedule?
Yeah, so this is the project schedule, and this is really looking at the next couple of months, and so I'm actually going to move on from this to the next slide, but know that, we need to get through town meeting, we need to get through a debt exclusion vote. We do have a fairly detailed, extensive construction schedule, but just to remind folks, we're looking at going into design development after the vote and looking at start of construction in the spring, in April of 27. So I will have a much more detailed schedule with that. I just think it's important that we focus on what's at hand and what's going on right now. So obviously we are having our meeting on September 9th. I'll be sending materials to John and Patrick this evening. Those meeting materials will go out to town meeting members. My understanding is by the end of the week. In addition to what you see on this screen in discussions with John, the select board would like to have a meeting with members of the building committee, likely next week, either Monday, Wednesday, or Thursday, or Monday, Wednesday, and the following Monday, to discuss the warrant items and to ask any questions before they vote and so that's not on here. I just learned of that this morning. But we also have an info session for town meeting members. That will be in the hearing room or select board room in town hall on the 23rd. It will either be at 6 or 6:30, just confirming that with the town clerk. Town meeting's on the 29th, and I'm fairly certain that we'll be giving a presentation of sorts there. And we have our school building committees coming up in October and November, and then the proposed debt exclusion vote is on the 15th. So there's a fair bit going on. And then, in terms of community outreach, if you are on Parent Square, you've received a couple of videos from Dave Cartoonan describing this process. That cadence will continue throughout the month of September leading up to town meeting. We'll put all those together to be able to have one consolidated video so that folks can view that. And I think that has been well received. We've been attending the beer gardens last week. We'll be there on Thursday. You may remember a few of us, including Dr. Conti, myself, Catherine, Christy, met with Big Cat, had an interview that's going to get released on the 15th of September. There's a couple of back to school nights that we will have a presence at next week, including at Francis Wyman on Wednesday. BHS has their back to school night on the 18th. We will give an update to the planning board on the 18th as well. I mentioned the project update for town meeting members. Assuming we're successful at town meeting, we already have a date scheduled for the Council on Aging for a meeting in mid-October. So there's a fair bit going on. One thing that we are working on as a team is a presentation that can really satisfy various boards, including the planning board, the select board, and the town meeting members. And so I'm working on that with our team and Consigli and TAP A. And so I'm hoping to actually have that completed by the end of this week, because I know we're going to be meeting with the select board next week as well as the planning board. So there's a bit going on, but it's all good, and we're one day closer to town meeting. And, I think we're all pretty excited the way this has come together, and looking forward to meeting with all those folks and hopefully gauging levels of support from each and every board and head into town meeting with the necessary information to answer folks' questions.
Thank you, Terry. And I believe Melissa has a question or comment.
Yeah, I think all the elementary back-to-school nights are on the 17th. Are you just going to Francis Wyman?
Okay. No, and I wasn't aware of that, so thank you for letting me know that.
Yeah.
We're going to try and have a presence at all of them. It's just a matter of spreading people out. But I will follow up with Dr. Conti tomorrow to ensure we know where, when, what time, and we'll have a presence there at each and every school.
Thanks.
Thanks, Melissa.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep. All right. Any other topics that anyone has thought of in the last 48 hours they'd like to talk about? All right. And upcoming meetings?
Upcoming meetings. Yeah, I've talked about these, but they're no different than the previous slides. So I don't think there's anything new here that folks need to know about.
All right. Thank you. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All right.